Hey everyone, Daniel here with Slow Haste. I hope you're here to get some sound design and general songwriting tips for the Digitakt and the Digitone. I've been having a bit of a dry spell with songwriting, to be completely honest, and I've been working on this piece that's got me really amped up, and I'm excited to share my process with you in hopes that you will be able to kind of implement some of these methods and use them in your creative process to help you work on your tracks, make your beats into songs, and keep having fun with the Electron devices. So without further ado, I'm just gonna jam around a bit for you, and I'll hopefully have a full video of this track up sometime in the next couple of weeks on my channel. But for now, I'm just gonna switch between a few patterns, give you the general idea of the song, and talk about how it came to be. So hopefully you can use some of those methods in your own work. All right, let's get to it. Okay, here we are. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you're familiar with some of my other stuff, you might notice that it's kind of a bit different sounding, a lot dancier, a lot houseier in general. That's something that somebody actually commented on one of my videos, was talking about experimenting with different genres. And I was like, yeah, it'd actually be really cool to kind of challenge myself at some point. So since I was having a bit of a dry spell, some writer's block with writing music, I decided that I was just gonna crank up the BPM. I usually stick between like 70 and 90. That's my comfort zone. It's that sort of like bouncy, chill vibe. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna go up to 115 BPM or 114.3. Close enough. But yeah, that was the first thing that I did. So tip number one, just break outside of your comfort zone. Intentionally make a decision when you start to write your song that will break the mold a bit, break some of those habits that you formed that might make your music. But as you can see, I feel like I kind of made this kind of genre and this tempo area my own type of thing. So I want to chat a little bit about sound design now. So let's take a look at the Digitone, because that's how I started off this piece. And you'll notice that structure comes after the sound design and sequencing for me, because I started off with this little ambient thing. And that's just a sample that I found that I kind of pitched up and messed around with that was in the same key as the song that I thought would make a cool intro. So as a little aside, it's really easy to kind of create a dynamic range in your song and create some different structure just by experimenting a little bit with the key and some different experimental sounds that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be in a song that you're working on. So yeah, I guess that's tip number 2. Anyways, now let's talk about the Digitone. So I started everything off with this little patch. It's a preset. It's Lo-Fi Saw SM. I always play around with like the algorithm and a lot of like the synth levels, but for the most part, I keep things pretty close to some of the presets, and that's something I've been working on with the Digitone, is just getting comfortable with the presets and how to adjust parameters bit by bit. And I added in this bass part. Again, really simple. This is where I broke the mold from my traditional, approach to songwriting. And it sounds pretty cool in my opinion. So I decided to roll with this. The next thing I did was with the Digitakt, I said, we're gonna create a beat. Really simple kick and kind of like a clap snare hybrid. And the most simple hi-hat pattern ever. Like, that's it. That's all it is. I have an LFO modulating the sample start time on the hi-hat just to kind of switch it up a little bit dynamically. Subtly, you might not even be able to hear it. And I have the amplitude adjusted every other hit, as you can see, so it has a really short decay and then a long decay. Really simple trick, just a lot of copying and pasting. And yeah, that's how I did the hi-hat, that sort of initial beat. So you might be wondering to yourself at this point, what if the day that this video releases, Saturday, January 22nd, is Daniel's birthday? Maybe you're wondering that. And maybe you're right. And maybe you're also wondering how you can say happy birthday to Daniel. Well, you can leave a comment, you can leave a like, you can subscribe to the channel, and you can check out my Patreon. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Happy birthday, everyone, whenever your birthday is. Next, I want to talk about track 2 on the Digitone. And Go Low DL is one of my favorite presets on the Digitone. I featured it in my my initial impressions. It was one of the first presets that I found that I got super excited about because it evolves. So yeah, the preset just has adjustments on this A and B delay. So that's what it sounds like altogether. But when you adjust, and you can have like a really long onset time. And I actually want to show you what I did for this third pattern, because this was like my big aha moment. I'm all about a breakdown. So we're just going to skip ahead to the breakdown because I want to show you what I did there. It's the same preset that I edited as this. And what I did is I just finely tuned the A and B delay time so it was rhythmically delayed so I could play a line in tempo with the pattern. I don't think you can see the key step on camera, so you can't see me playing that on the keyboard, but that's all it is. Oops, let me bring in the Digitakt here. And I just slowed it down to halftime kind of a beat. And added in these percussive trills that I have here. So like on track 4, I have this really simple, just like it's like a filtered kick hit basically, with super high pass filter on it, and the bass cut. So and it's bouncing across the stereo field. And when you play it with that more straightforward hi-hat that also has some rolls, it just creates such a nice like glitchy percussion part. So yeah, don't ignore those the fills on the Digitakt. So yeah, if you're not familiar with how to do that, you just hold a trig down and press the down arrow. And let me see if I can find one with a trig on it. I'm on the right track, right? Yeah, okay, there we go. So basically, the one thing that I don't like is that you can't preview the sort of roll by hitting the S button while you're holding the key, but you can see you turn on retrig with that A knob, and then you can adjust the rate, the velocity, which is kind of like the decay, and the length. Yeah, it's super cool. So definitely mess with that if you haven't yet. So I also put this arpeggio on the Digitone. And I think I meant to bring the bass in more steadily when I was doing my little run through, but I forgot that I left this little track 1 thing on there, which is just a copy of that from the first pattern. So yeah, point number 3, I guess, is that breakdowns are super important, and a great way to get into a breakdown is to take a preset that you have, like, not that, like this nice lush pad, and just change it up. I, as you can see and hear, cut the release time way down too, so it's a lot more like percussive and kind of like, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. That breakdown is a little stumbly, but it's very concise and choppy and jarring in a way that kind of like slows down the song and brings you back to reality after that like big dance explosion happens. With the transition from the first pattern to the second pattern. And all I did here, this is another important tip, is again, take the beat back a bit, dial it down from this. This is pattern 1 into pattern 2. Just dial it back. Again, kind of a halftime beat. But we're getting crazy with those fills. I've talked about this before. I love dialing that sort of perceived tempo, that feel of the beat, taking that groove back, but amping up the sort of fervor that happens within. So not slowing down your tempo literally. When I say that, slowing down your perceived tempo, I mean like changing to a halftime or like a backbeat type of a thing. So it feels slower. It's implied by either, eliminating some of the kicks, bringing it from a 4 on the floor to a 2 on the floor, and then, making the hi-hats a little bit more staccato and less syncopated, things like that. But within that, you have these 2 tracks that are just giving energy to the whole percussion section. Yeah, cool stuff like that. And then here's that preset, that Go Low DL from the Digitone. I didn't adjust it much here. I have the filter cut back a little bit because I wanted this melodic component to shine through this sort of this bouncy synth melody that gives it that real like housey feel, like a house with a roof. So yeah, let's listen just with everything from the first pattern to the second pattern. Yeah, and that's that. So that's the main, you could say like that's the main beat, right? That's the main idea, is that pattern 1 to pattern 2. And that's like a great place to start for your songwriting, is if all else fails, just start off by trying to make a pattern, a single pattern. And then saying, okay, I'm going to make a copy of this, and how do I change it? So you change it by doing some of the things I mentioned, like changing a synth sound just a little bit. Then once you've changed the sound, you can develop the melody a little bit further and say like, okay, this sounds a little bit darker. And then saying like, let's make it, here's this pattern one where it's very like, kind of like dark and swelling and brooding. And then it changes to a more uplifting and hopeful kind of place. At least that's how I kind of hear it. So yeah, think about mood, think about where you want to take your listener, and let that kind of inform how you change your chord progression as well. And then that breakdown, like I talked about. You can give it this energy, right? You can build it up fully and say, I want all of these components here. And then really think about, how do I want to keep that listener's attention, and how do I want to shift paradigms? And so from that second pattern, as it kind of expands, suddenly shift to this. And it's like, okay, this is strange. I'm still hearing the same sounds, but things are a little different. And then you hear it pick up the pace a little bit with those hi-hat type of percussive elements coming in. And one of my favorite pieces, let me show you this. Again, I know I'm all over the place here, but I'm really excited to show you about some of the sound design. So yeah, this is just a single little chord sample that I pitched up, and just listen to this little piece. I treated this the same way as I did this, to be honest, which you can probably hear now. But yeah, just threw it around in the stereo field, kind of randomly, not super haphazardly, but I tried to make them kind of like match up and complement each other. And I did some ratcheting, those little fills, and a couple of hits are reversed. Yeah, and I cranked up the bit crush on some of those hits as well. And I think that creates a really cool contrast. To this little ambient swell. And I initially added the ambient swell to this because this was very like rhythmic, and I was like, I need something floaty here, right? So without that sample, it still sounds good. To me, it just sounded a little bit empty. And that's how I decided to come to add in this sample. And then I was like, why the hell not? This ARP is sick. So it's a big build anyways, right? I didn't feel like it was too excessive. If that ARP was playing as like part of the main gist of it, I think it would be excessive, because that mix is getting really dense right there. So I was a little bit hesitant, but I liked the way that it sounded and thought it was merited by the build-up. And then full circle, I said, I want a way to kind of like subtly bring this pattern in, because even though starting like this is pretty sparse relative to like this main, kind of aggressive stabby synth motif that comes in, I was like, I want to really start it slow and easy and wispy. I don't know, it felt very wintry to me to have this kind of like breathy, hazy, fluty sample going. And then I was like, oh, this is cool. This is very icy. It's giving me some cool visual vibes. And then I was like, yeah, the transition into this kick with that synth sound. Yeah, I just love it so much. So yeah, I hope you learned something here. I have a few other videos with some other sort of songwriting and sound design tips. Please check those out. I think that they're a lot of fun and all sort of give you a different flavor of how you can use some of these tips across different genres and even across different instruments. I have some old OP1 stuff that I really like going back and listening to and reflecting on the process and how I've come to implement those methods with the Electron setup that I'm currently using. So yeah, keep an eye out for the full track. I will post it in the description here once I actually get the video out sometime in the next couple of weeks. But for now, hope you have a nice weekend. Peace. Stay warm.